Okay. I'd like to welcome you to the Administration Finance Fire Committee meeting number 6 for 2017. My name is Councillor Bell, and I will be chairing this committee meeting. I will now call this meeting to order. There's sign-in sheets on your left on the tables. Please read and sign in on the appropriate sheet. Okay. Just a reminder to all members of council, the public, all cell phones, pagers, and PDAs to be turned off. Additionally, for your information, we are audio videotaping this meeting. Okay, and with regrets, Councillor Rayner will not be here tonight. Are there any changes in order of items on the agenda? Okay. I do have one that I'd like to bring forward. I would like to move the confidential matters from this meeting to the back end of the Public Works meeting, if council agrees.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest issues? Seeing none. Okay, appointments, seeing none, we'll move on. Request to address any items on the agenda. Is there anyone in attendance of the public that would like to address? Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Procedural bylaw, section 10-.13, general rules. 1 hour shall be set aside for this section of the agenda, and each individual person shall only be provided with 5 minutes to address their issues. Some exceptions do apply. Responses may be provided and the matter may be referred to staff. If you want to come forward and state your name and what you'd like to talk to, and if you could leave a copy of your speech with the clerk, please.
My name is Naomi Bressa. I live at 5072 Canberra Road in Wellandport. I'm here in regard to the request to pass a resolution of support in regards to the notice of application for judicial review and notice of constitutional question filed by CCSAGE Naturally Green in the Ottawa Divisional Court file number 15-2162. So this is a letter from the directors of Mothers Against Wind Turbines, and it says, Dear Mayor Joyner and Council, please add your support to the judicial review and notice of constitutional questions that have been filed by CCSAGE Naturally Green in regards to the challenge of the Green Energy Act. The Green Energy Act strips the rights and protections for rural residents who are forced to live adjacent to wind-powered generation complexes. Wind projects are built and operating in our communities, and they are a challenge to the process of siting renewable energy projects is a step in the right direction. And it's signed respectfully from Catherine Mitchell, Director, and Linda Rogers, Director, and on behalf of Mothers Against Wind Turbines Incorporated and interested community members.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for that. Is forward. Go ahead, Councillor Tejek.
Since this is a constitutional challenge by one municipality, Mrs. Bruce, I'd just like to know what it is that your legal counsel thinks will be to an advantage. What value is there for other municipalities to endorse this action? Have you been told by your legal counsel or the legal counsel of anyone else other than the judge, the hearing judge? Because this is a very unusual ask for others to endorse actions at a hearing. I just wondered if you had any feedback from any other municipalities.
Well, the feeling is that it's more likely to be successful
I guess since it's an action in a court,
Yes.
I'm just wondering what it is, because if you were going after the Ontario government or the federal government because of constitutional rights taken away, that is a different action. But this is an action before the courts already. I just wondered what anyone had advised you as to what advantage there would be by others joining the fight of a current action before the courts.
My understanding is that this may be our last chance to overturn the Green Energy Act. And if the opportunity is there, I think we need to take advantage of it. There has been so much controversy, so many people have tried to talk to the government, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, to try to get some relief for the many people that are suffering in rural Ontario, and mostly we've been ignored. So this is one opportunity, hopefully.
But if I could,
Overturning that Green Energy Act and putting some strength back where I believe it belongs, with the local municipalities to be in charge of their own fate,
Okay.
which we're definitely not right now.
Excuse me, can you just come up to the mic so that we can,
the taping.
Oh,
The taping.
that's right, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize for that, for not asking you sooner.
And I'm sorry, Councillor Bell, I should have asked for her to come forward. Sorry, the people at home can't hear it on the tape.
Uh-huh. So did you want me to repeat that?
I think we're fine.
I think we're fine. I just wondered if you had gotten any legal advice on what would help a constitutional challenge.
The only information that we have is that this seems to be the best opportunity that's available to rural Ontario right now to try to take away some of the disadvantages that we have right now in the Green Energy Act.
Thank you, Councillor, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I don't want to beat her up. You know how it works.
Okay, I have the same. It's Nellie DeHaan, 6505 16 Road, Smithville. Dear Mayor Joyner and Council, as representative for West Lincoln Glanbrook Wind Action Group Incorporated, as well as a citizen of West Lincoln who is concerned about the effects of the Green Energy Act on not only our municipality, but on the province of Ontario as a whole, I ask West Lincoln Council to support the judicial review and notice of constitutional questions that have been filed by CCS AGE, Naturally Green, in regards to the challenges of the Green Energy Act. Following are the concerns as presented in the resolution. Each and every one of these concerns has been an issue for West Lincoln Township and our residents, as they have been for each municipality, either willing or unwilling host to an industrial wind installation. The Green Energy Act in 2009 strips municipalities of rural Ontario and their residents of statutory rights to enact, rely on, and claim the benefit of sound land use planning principles. Number 2, Environmental Protection Act limits the rights of residents of rural Ontario to challenge the respondent's decision to issue the REA, while the rights of the proponent are unrestricted. Number 3, Ontario Energy Board Act 1998 restricts the matters to be considered in assessing the public interest in granting leave to construct an electricity transmission or distribution line. Planning Act 1990 eliminates the right of rural municipalities and their residents to exercise sound planning principles in respect of industrial uses of land within their jurisdiction. Electricity Act 1998 eliminates the right of rural municipalities to influence the installation of electricity transmission or distribution lines connected to renewable energy projects on roads owned and maintained by the municipality. Ontario Regulation 28-298 under the Assessment Act provides preferential rates of assessment to proponents of industrial wind turbines to the prejudice of host municipalities. I urge you to endorse the efforts of CCSAGE Naturally Green in challenging the validity and constitutionality of this legislation. My understanding is that all affected municipalities have been asked to endorse this resolution. And I have been informed that Wainfleet has unanimously supported this resolution last week or something. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Mrs. Allen. Next is Fire Department update. Item A69-17, Fire Chief Dennis Fisher, monthly update.
Thank you,
Chief
Mr.
Fisher.
Chair. For the month of August, Station 1 had 21 calls, Station 2 had 7, and Elm Valley East End had 1. Somewhat quiet month for the August. Nothing in fire prevention. Over the holidays, Apparatus Fleet has nothing. A couple of things under fire department activities. We did do a mutual aid call in Grimsby in the month of August. And Station 1 firefighters had a successful food booth at the West Niagara Fair. So pretty quiet month. Kids are back now in school, so things will start to go back in Grimsby again, hopefully. So I expect to see our public educators start to touch base with the grade 5 teachers and get back into schools before the end of the year. Other than that, pretty quiet month.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Councilor Bilsma?
Thank you very much. Do you have like a baseline or an average call per month, or like breakdown by months? It doesn't have to happen today or anything like that, but like I'm curious to know whether trends are improving, whether just how activity is happening. So for example, the month of August, you say slow. It was slow based on something that you know or something that you perceive, or are August generally slow? So those are the types of questions I'm looking to get answered. At some point, maybe, again, I'm just always kind of curious when I hear your report, based, how are we trending? So I don't know if there's a yearly report that compares year by year or has some kind of 10-year average, and then we're below that average, and that would be good, thumbs up, or whether we're, tipping up. How does that all get monitored? How do you gauge all that? Through you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Alderman Bilsma or Councillor Bilsma. Probably the average, we usually average around between 20 and 25, 27 calls, roughly, give or take. Some months are a little higher, some months are a little lower. Our yearly report comes from dispatch. So at the end of October, which is our fiscal year, it usually takes dispatch a couple of months. I usually get their report middle of January, early part of February for 2017, which basically gives you the number of call volume. It breaks it down into incidents, where it was, what grid location, time of day, gives you that average. So I can certainly pass that on to members of council. As you can see, you can go through the report from dispatch, how they break it down in call volume and that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's easy enough to do.
Yeah, no, I'm just kind of curious. We've been at this for a number of years, and so I'm always kind of what do we have as benchmarks, and we do the public service, and we do the public education and stuff like that, and of course always with an aim to improve, or I guess not improve, eliminate or reduce the number of calls. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious how that all works. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Bosma, I can tell you as of today, we are probably coming up at year end, at the end of October, we're probably down about 35 calls
Oh,
right now
Yeah.
for this year.
Yeah.
Councilor Cadan, and then Mayor John.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm back to fire prevention, of course, that's my, because I taught for so many years. But I know that we asked a question, and it wasn't me that time, about knocking on doors. I think that was after the fire report came out. And you thought that that wasn't a very good way to go because people don't have to let you in or whatever. But I noticed on the news just this past week that some of the departments in Niagara are doing that. I think Port Colborne just did, and maybe Welland was the other one. But they seem to have some kind of card that they sent out or that they put indoors or something to start with, because people were kind of trading their card and welcoming them in as they were showing this on television. And I thought, maybe there's another way. And I know they were also, I know that you replace things that, at a reasonable cost if a smoke detector isn't working or whatever. And that seemed to be the route they were going as well. I wondered if that was precipitated because of the number of fires that have been down that way. But I also wondered if others doing it had given more thought to West Lincoln in terms of looking at doing some kind of a visitation.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gannon. Actually, Kevin and I sat down about 2 weeks ago and discussed, some of the things that we could do for Fire Prevention Week coming up. Where we struggle is that we've done fire prevention open house, and for some reason we don't seem to get a very big turnout for the population in the urban area. For whatever reason, I'm not sure. So we've kicked it around a little bit. So we're trying to plan. Station 2 is going to have their annual breakfast as usual. But we've sat down with the officers, and I got to sit down with the rest of the firefighters to see if we can come up with something different to draw people into the thing. And whether we have open the doors during the day on a Saturday, but it just seems like we don't gain enough interest on Fire Prevention Week. Now, we did kick around discussions about going door to door again to see what the response from the general public is going to be. But we're trying to work that, because we're limited in training nights, and we have so many mandatory training things that we have to accomplish. We're trying not to, I wouldn't say use training drill nights to walk door to door. So we're trying to propose to the guys maybe a Saturday morning for a couple of hours, and half a dozen guys over in the survey and half a dozen guys over there. I don't think we're going to get every door, but we'll try and pound some pavement with it and see what kind of reception we can get. Before, it hasn't been very good. As I said, we don't have the authority to walk into somebody's home, because if they say no, we're good, I don't have that authority to push in.
But if they say, no, you're good, that's okay. At least you've put it out there. And there may be others who will say, wow, I haven't checked my smoke detector for a while. And I think maybe, and I agree, I think we've kind of come past the years of little kids coming to the fire hall, and they love it, and they'll come and they'll eat hot dogs and climb on the trucks, and that's great. But that isn't really the impact, I think, that some of the other municipalities are looking at. I just didn't know if you were starting to pursue that as well, so.
So we have looked at it. We are in discussions about what we can do for Fire Prevention Week. Something different, maybe a little bit more, and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's been a struggle for trying to get people here. I mean, the thing too is that we have that emergency services open house in May, where we draw a couple hundred kids for that day for the public works. So it's tough. I don't know whether people don't come out because the kids have already been there. I'm not sure, but we've struggled over the last 4 or 5 years to put stuff together. And I mean, we've had extrication demos where you might have 10 people.
Yeah. I think you're on the right track to look at something different. I
So we
think
gotta-
the one in the spring, that day was phenomenal.
Yeah, and it is a great day. Unfortunately, it's not specific to fire service and fire prevention. I mean, we're
Exactly.
there to do fire prevention, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily cover all the bases.
So one last question, if I may. If you, because there's always advertising leading up to Fire Prevention Week, if in that blurb that goes out ahead of time, if you advertised that fire, prevention was going to take place in a different way, and that, people shouldn't be surprised if somebody came knocking on the door to check on their smoke detectors if they wish, they could have that done. Like, that might be the way to go. And even if you don't hit everywhere, you hit one section one year and another section another year, might be the way
Through
around it.
you, Chairman Bell to Councillor Canan. I'm actually working on the fire prevention ads for both the papers. So when I sit down and talk with Deputy Chief McIntyre, one of the things will be in there, we'll be advertising the breakfast at Station 2. And if we're going to choose to go that route of going door to door, that will be in that spread of,
So there's still time
just
to
like you
look
say,
at
a heads
something
up
like
to say,
that. Yeah.
yes, we're,
Yeah,
you may have the potential of firefighters coming to your door.
I think that's
So-
everything. Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
Mayor Joyner?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Chief, one quick question.
Yep.
How would weather play into the call volume averages?
It does a little bit. Winter months, of course, you get a few more accidents because of the weather. We get, we didn't run into a lot of heavy thunderstorms and power outages this year, like we have in the past. So there is a number of, we have done a number of call volumes with hydro wires and all that, which we didn't do a lot of this year because we didn't have a lot of that. We are down in call volume. To pinpoint a specific reason why, that's tough to say, for me to say.
Would you say that perhaps we're maybe down in call volume because we had a wet summer, therefore not dry timber and dry grass fires?
You could say that. I mean, we did have a lot of precipitation this year as opposed to last year was very dry. But again, I put the fire ban on last year for, I don't know, 2 months, month and a half, 2 months. So it could possibly be that we had a lot of, or an overabundance of precipitation this summer than last. But I will give, members of council the year numbers. That's absolutely easy to do, for sure.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Trombetta?
Thanks, Chair. Chief Fisher, just status on Fire Station 2. What are we at? I haven't talked about that in a while. So
Station 2 is coming along. Flooring is going down next Monday. They were battling back and forth on what kind of flooring they were going to put down. So it's basically a little bit of flooring's down and then just a matter of putting in fixtures. So my goal is to have it all ready for the opening Fire Prevention Week.
when it's, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. When it is complete, can you just give us a heads up? We can come take a look if that's okay?
Absolutely,
If there's some
100%.
time
Yep,
To take a look.
for sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, no problem.
Any other questions? Councillor Chicho?
Just a question on the call volumes. Is there any reduction in the number of emergency response calls that we're getting? Because I know we were trying real hard to work with St. Catharines and that concept, centralization of calls and not having the fire truck arrive or have a race with the ambulance.
Well, as you know, and I'm not sure whether you were on council at the time, a number of years ago, I don't know how many years ago it's been now, we used to run to unknown 911s. And we were going lights and sirens, and police and ambulance weren't doing anything. Unfortunately, because of our protocols, we can't approach the property because we don't know what it is. If we don't physically see any fire, then our guidelines are that we don't go to the door until police are present. Unfortunately, when we talk to our dispatch to say we need police, we never get an ETA, or they say, well, they're not coming. So we sat at the regional chiefs level and said, why are we going to these calls when no other emergency services is really caring about them? Ambulance has the same protocols that we do. They do not approach. They've had incidents where they've been met at the door with somebody with a handgun. So that all came to a halt. And unfortunately, all of us in the region went off. We took our unknown 911 calls off the call volume. So we do not run to unknowns at all anymore. And it's been, I can say, at least 5 years now.
So through you, Mr. Chair, just define for us what an unknown call, because if I'm at an address and you know I'm there and I'm reporting a possible heart attack.
An unknown could be anything from your phone automatically dialing, which happened a zillion times. Or it could be a kid playing with a phone. It could be a number of different things. Somebody calls 911, doesn't want to have, and realize they don't want to have anybody and hangs up, and they don't have any contact. So there could be a number of reasons why. But at the end of the day, there was no concerns from the NRP side, and there was no concerns from EMS's side. And EMS side took the same kind of route that the fire service did, is why are we running down the road, lights and sirens, when we're going to sit there for 45 minutes waiting for a policeman to show up? And it became time, money, wages, not maybe so much on our side, but an ambulance side, you're tying up emergency apparatus, sitting there waiting. So it was felt region-wide that we would all pull out of unknown 911. And there hasn't been any issues since we've all done it. So it probably reduced our call volume by, I would say, 25. But, some of the bigger centers, look at St. Catharines or Niagara Falls, it probably reduced their call volume by 1,000.
So, but a known call, someone calling and saying.
Yes.
Help.
Yes,
You're not
yes.
looking for fire, you're looking for someone who needs help.
Yeah. And it depends, how the 911 call comes into dispatch, because it goes to the NRP first, and they go police, fire, ambulance. If it goes to ambulance, they have protocols and questions that they have to answer in order for it to tier to us. So it varies. It depends on what you get, what EMS gets in conversation with whoever's on the phone, whether they dispatch us. Normally, they would dispatch us. They would err on the side of caution and dispatch us, and if we're not needed, they cancel us. That's all. So it is. You do get calls where you get there and you go, "What'd you call us for?" Or "Why didn't you cancel us?" We do have those type of calls because we have an ambulance base in town. We're on strict protocols, and we're on a tiered response, so we don't go if the ambulance is greater than 8 minutes or there's a priority call. So when you get them, it's all on the EMS dispatch and whether they're going to push the button and send it to fire. Sometimes we get there and the ambulance attendants are going, "What are you guys doing here?" So sometimes it gets frustrating, especially if guys get up at 2 or 3 in the morning and you get there and the patient's already loaded in the ambulance, and the paramedics are going, "We didn't call you." Well, yeah, you did. They didn't personally, but your dispatch did. So, there's certain things that, we have good communications with Niagara EMS, but there is times where you get a little frustrated with them because of the fact, well, would you dispatch us to? We don't fall under that criteria, so, but it happens.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions, comments? I do have a couple of comments for the chief. First of all, I'd like to thank Councilor Trebetta for asking the question I wanted to, and thank you for them answers. The one I do want to go back to, though, is fire prevention. I have seen the same TV commercials and ads that Councilor Dan has, and majority of them are in bigger centers, communities, bigger budgets, and everything. And I know we try to do the best we can with what we have, and we do a great job with that. I'm looking ahead to next year. This year's already in the works. And you'd mentioned that our turnout with our residents is low. We really don't have an answer why. I don't know if we're complacent, we don't think it's going to happen to us, or what it is. But looking forward to next year, I'd like to see some kind of a campaign where we send out a flyer weeks ahead of time saying, hey, in the month of October, you can expect to see us knocking in your doors or in your neighborhoods. We will be doing home inspections, preventative type thing, well in advance of the cold weather coming, because that seems where we have a lot of problems with extension cords, different types of candles, house fires. So maybe that's something that not only yourself and Deputy Fisher or Deputy McIntyre could work on, but maybe the council and staff, we could all pitch in and try to figure out how we can get something going, that we can do a very effective type campaign to make people aware out there. And if they're not home, we leave a card, they can contact us and we can get out there and see them. I know it's a big ask and it's a lot of work considering what we have, and it's volunteer, so, but it's just something maybe we could think about that moving forward.
Yeah, one of the things is too is that, and I don't want to sound negative, but it's trying to get guys to commit time. And they all have their own jobs to go to. They come here Wednesday nights. They do their thing. They go to calls. It just, I mean, we have 7 or 8 new recruits right now that are all young and gung ho. It's just sometimes it's a little hard to get guys to commit to days outside of. And I'm not saying that they certainly won't. Like, I mean, if it's for the betterment of the community, I'm sure that they're going to be more than willing to step up. It's just I don't want to overflood them with, we're going to spend the next 4 weeks, weekends, taking away their weekends. And don't get me wrong, fire prevention is what the old man is pushing right now, is prevention, prevention, prevention. Unfortunately, we don't have somebody full-time in that position, so it's hard to push every day somebody going out and doing it on an 8-hour basis, right? But absolutely, we'll work on it for sure. Like I say, it's something that's mandated from the Office of the Fire Marshals too as well, so it's something that we have to work on.
Thanks for the honest answer, and I do understand that it's hard to get volunteers to put more time in. They have a life also, and that time of year the kids are back in school and the winter sports are starting, and I totally understand that. And I guess from my point, if there's anything that we as a council can do to help move this forward, we need you to ask us.
Oh, absolutely.
You
Like
need
I
to
say,
come forward and ask, and
like I'm going to sit down with Kevin over the next week and a half to finalize fire prevention right now for this week, for this year. Hopefully, we will have something at Station 1. That's the goal. Whether it's a Wednesday night at taking away one of their drill nights, or it's a Saturday morning. But we are planning on trying to do something during that week.
Thank you very much. Okay. More questions, comments? Thank you very much, Steve Fisher. Okay, next up is consent items. 7A, item A70-17, Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, August 10th, 2017 minutes. 2, West Lincoln Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, June 7th, 2017 minutes. 3, report RFD-C-10-2017, approval of agreement on share assessment due to land severance, Douglas and Elsie Crown. And the recommendation is the Administration Finance Fire Committee hereby approve the following consent items. 1, item 1 to be and is hereby accepted, and item 2, and is hereby received for information, and item 3, be and is hereby received, and that the recommendation contained herein be adopted, with the exception of, do I see any opposed? Councilor Trombetta? Oh, okay, very good then. Council Chief? Oh, okay. So, Councilor Trombetta and Councilman. Okay, all those in favor? Passed, carried. Thank you. Communications, item A71-17, Garth Manning, QC, member, CCSAGE, Naturally Green, request for support, application for judicial review in the Divisional Court at Ottawa. Recommendation that the request from Garth Manning, QC, member, CCSAG, Naturally Green, for support of principles of their application for judicial review in the Divisional Court at Ottawa be received. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Belsma, yeah, thank you, and Mayor Joyner. Any questions, comments? Councillor Belsma, Mayor Joyner.
Thank you very much. This has been before us for a while, and I've had all kinds of thoughts and comments made to me, and I've made them out. And I guess I look at what the Mothers Against Wind Turbines, the resolution that they put together, put forward, and I would actually propose an amendment that we that be received and that we send an endorsement. And I know the reason I'm suggesting that, and it's after many discussions, is I guess the reason I haven't always waffled. I mean, I've been in support of it since it first came across my desk or my screen, and then in a moment of discussion, I changed my mind, or I had a second thought about it, but now I'm back to my first thought, and that's simply because the original CC Sage Naturally Green question, while parts of their challenge have to deal with a local issue, which is one of the reasons we kind of hesitated, because it had to deal with a particular wind farm. Coming back, the judge in that proceeding asked a simple question and resulted in this request. And the question he asked, well, what municipalities? And I've been doing some thinking about that, and I think we can safely endorse this by simply saying we're a municipality that it had to do specifically with the request regarding a comment about municipalities that were concerned about the overreaching of the Green Energy Act. And I think that we can still safely put forward an endorsement without muddying up the waters with respect to the local issue. It's because we're not engaging financially into that bill. All we're saying is basically, as a municipality, we're signing a petition saying, yeah, we do also agree that the Green Energy Act has overstepped its bounds. And so I'd like us to consider endorsing this. So I would like to put that forward. So it would basically be an amendment that would say, at the end be received and endorsed. Other communities have done it, so I'd like to just put that forward. So right now, that's my ask, or my request.
Need a seconder for that?
Mr. Billsma will hold his request to amend. Could we hear what it is that, rather than having 14 amendments, or, hey,
We okay doing that? We gotta deal with this one. Yep. So I need a seconder. So, seeing no seconder. Okay, so then that's it then.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor, or Mayor Joyner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought I was the initial seconder on Councillor Balsama's motion, but once he said receive and then he went on, then I did not want to be the seconder on that. So we've gone past that. Okay, thank you. I just quite simply I was going to say, because I thought we were going to receive this for information purposes only, I was first going to thank Mrs. DeHaan and Mrs. Brusa for their presentation earlier tonight. And I want to thank the Industrial Wind Turbine Public Advisory Committee, PAC, for bringing this issue to West Lincoln Council's attention. Quite simply, I was going to just make the comment that West Lincoln Council had our legal counsel review this matter, and based on their review, we will be receiving this correspondence this evening only. And it was just to be received. That is my motion, Mr. Chair.
Need a seconder? It's on the table. Okay. Is there any, Councilor Veto?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Not to say that Councillor Balsama's recommendation is right or wrong. I just know that, again, we were in talks in confidential last week, and so obviously issues of that can't be obviously portrayed because it's discussed in the public. And I don't know, yes or no, if that puts us in a bind receiving what he is proposing. So at that, I'm going to have to oppose his motion myself, because we had some directives from closed session that were provided to us by our solicitors. So accepting this or approving it, like I said, there should be that is more something that should be upon the our solicitors to look at. So according to what was told to me in confidential, I have to obviously keep it confidential, but like I said, I don't know if it would put us like I said, yes or no what he's recommending. So that's why I'm not going to go forward with that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mayor Joyner?
So just for clarification, Mr. Chair, there is nothing on the floor right now other than the recommendation that has been put forward by staff, and that is just to receive. Am I correct, Mr. Chair, in that?
That's right.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, and I don't have a problem with what has been proposed to this agenda. It's just the amendment I am a little trouble with. Not to say it's right or wrong. I just have a problem with the amendment because, again, you guys before what I just said previously, so I don't need to continue on.
So it's amendment, okay. It's not in form, okay. Councilor Chicha?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think members of council have addressed the issue of the advice we sought and the position that this council may take. I just want to correct one thing. I don't believe that PAC brought this forward, Mr. Mayor, in your comments, not to discredit what it is you said, but PAC did not bring forward a recommendation to endorse this. This was Mothers Against Wind Turbines, and
There's two letters here.
yeah, and one from the Wigwag, right?
One was from...
Not PAC.
Not Pacific.
I just want to make that, I
Just
want to make
the
that
name.
clear,
Just
because
the
if it
name.
had been,
Yeah.
I would have been speaking about that. But it is, but we do have concerned citizens who've brought them forward. And the motion that is being asked for by these groups, as well as the White Pines Project Defense Council, I guess you'd put it forward, is asking for the green energy which strips municipalities of rural Ontario and their residents, but not those of urban, suburban Ontario of statutory rights. And that's, I don't think we have an argument with that. But I think that if we were to look at our last agenda, that of the Planning Committee, we would notice that there were 2 other reports that were stripping further responsibilities from municipalities. And we talked about that night. I brought it up, and I know members of council were equally concerned, and that is that there is updates on the natural heritage policies for the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and these are looking for the province to determine what additional lands should be taken into natural conservancy throughout the province. And we have very little time to answer that. Another Green Energy Act. And I'm not taking away the substance of what it is that this application shows us, but I'm now looking for the other one. And that is that there was a report on our agenda at planning last week, which was about the agricultural system and mapping and implementation procedures were being received by all municipalities across Ontario with very little time again to go back to the province. So the Green Energy Act is not the only act that is carving back the responsibilities that were given to municipalities as not that long ago, 2003, 2002, and now we're seeing an encroachment on those responsibilities being taken back, both in our conservation measures, in our agricultural measures, in the rural Ontario being strapped with the Green Energy Act. That's something that I think in time we should take a step to putting forward, pardon me, while the province's parties are looking at who will constitute the next government in the next year. And I don't want to lose sight of that, because it's not just one act anymore that's taking away our powers and may be affecting rural municipalities. And that we all need to pay attention to, because I see provincial creep into our responsibilities. As to the endorsement of the motion that is before us, I believe that we were unfortunate not to have our legal counsel here this evening to be able to give us quite a small brief on, that could be said in open session, about what it is that we were advised about as to our procedures and options last week. But it would be sufficient to say that at this point in time, as an elected representative for this community, I find it very difficult for me to think of endorsing this as per advice from our legal counsel. And that may not impact me as an individual, but it unfortunately, the oath of office that I took prohibits me from making anything other than to receive this item tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Bozeman and Councillor
I just want to make one more. At least one other, I think there was a source. One of the reasons this is before us also is due to the fact there was a multi-municipal working group, and I think that was also a source why we've received this communication. So this came to us in a number of ways. There's 2 letters regarding it, but I think it was the working group, the multi-municipal working group that's held in Chesley that also put this before. So that was at least one source, so just to kind of dovetail with that, yeah.
I believe that's what.
Yeah, so that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. That is exactly what I meant, not to say PAC. I meant to say the multi-municipal working group. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Cadan, sorry.
Just for clarification, the chair of that group and myself have had discussions of late, as late as today, this afternoon, and there are the same concerns with some municipalities throughout Ontario who are in the same position as us, and so the chairman has understood, and therefore there is no unanimity in the motion being passed by the Chesley Municipal multi-municipal group. So,
Thank you. Councillor Cadan.
Okay, just very briefly, though, the ladies who spoke before us, both of you, thank you for doing that. I thank you also for keeping the letters coming and letting us know. Little did you know that we have received previous information about that, in fact, a good-sized package, and had discussed it. But I think kudos to you both for always, and also Mr. Engel, always stepping up via your computer and making sure that the information is before us. And we do thank you for that.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, you've heard the recommendation. All those in favor? That's done. Carried. Staff reports, seeing none. Other business. Item A72-17, acting CAO clerk, Ms. Langley. Read 218 budget timetable. It's a verbal update.
Through you to members of the committee, I just wanted to let you know that the report from the treasurer regarding the budget timetable for the 2018 budget will be presented likely at the October Administration Committee meeting. But I did want to let you know that the 2018 budget will likely be presented early in the new year as opposed to late this year because of constraints we're dealing with because of our new software system. We're still running parallel. There's issues to deal with. And so that's going to slow us up a little bit. So I just wanted to let you know, and she'll bring a report forward with the timelines for you in October.
Okay, thank you. Item A73-17, members of committee, verbal updates from members of boards or committees. Seeing none. Item A74-17, it's basically the same thing. Informative. Councilor Bilsma.
Yeah, thank you. The attendance at the corn and chili roast, or corn roast and chili serving dinner with some soup on the side at the Silverdale Hall went very well. Just want to acknowledge the hardworking group of volunteers that and the board of that hall that put on a good dinner. And I was unable to dunk corn the entire time, so Councillor Ganan spotted me for 3/4 of the time. But I was able to do that for half an hour. The attendance was a little bit lower. Such a gorgeous evening. There's probably 1,000 reasons why people were still out and about and not thinking of corn. But for the people who showed up, of course, it was a lovely evening to sit with the neighbors. And just want to put out there too that often when there's particular needs, and I know the spring barbecue, often they raise money for the hall, but if there's a particular need, and in the spring they raised money for BC Fires, and they also do their community care. So while the hall slowly across 10 and 15 years has greatly improved, it's not all just always for the hall. Often they do very charitable donations as well. So I just wanted to get that on the record and thank them for their hard work and diligence in the Silverdale Hall Board. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And you're correct, they do a lot of work for the community. Mayor Jordan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While we're doing other business items of an informative nature, I just want to say this past week we went to the grand opening for I thank Councillor Ganan and Councillor Bell for joining me. Willow Tree Studios had their grand opening. It was a success. There was absolutely a lineup outside waiting for these people to get inside. I've now realized that in the downtown we need stroller parking because there probably was a dozen or more there. So I can see them actually looking for a bigger store not too soon. And as Councillor Ganan said a couple of weeks ago, that she just has just an absolute fabulous window too, and she continues to change it monthly. So it always piques people's curiosity to go in there. She's a lovely lady. She comes from a lovely family, and it was a great success. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. New items of business, I'm not aware of any at this time. Okay. At this time, we would go into confidential, but we're going to postpone it to the end of the Public Works. So I would like to pause this meeting for the time. We'll go to a recess, and we'll come back to it.